Mark,
Paul,
that looks a lot like a Lazarus Planet volcano going off.
it does. We're in the thick of it.
We are. We are now. This is episode 2 of season 2 of DC Comics Deep Dive. We are taking a look at Lazarus Planet, and we will actually get to looking at Lazarus Planet, Assault on Krypton, and Monkey Prince number 10 right after this. So here we are. We are now into the Lazarus Planet. Lazarus Planet Alpha has come and gone. We are now onto the one shots, the weekly one shots that'll be coming along. We will get to that one, Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton, in just a second. However, we're going to start with Monkey Prince number 10 because as you read this in the timeline, you find out that Lazarus Planet number 10 actually takes place before Lazarus Planet Alpha. So
Yeah, and we've seen that happening with this Monkey Prince title quite often over the past couple of months. Yourself and Ryan have acknowledged that on Sunday nights, where you're getting these editor notes, see this, see that, and it's like Monkey Prince is always an issue ahead of everything else. So I'm not surprised that this one is, but it seems like this book might just be like a month or a couple of weeks off its original scheduled release week.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that's probably it. Um, we start the issue right where we ended issue number 9, where we had the big reveal of the Ultra Humanite, who is actually the Monkey Prince's grandfather's essence is in Ultra Humanite, or vice versa, rather. And so we
Yeah, that
start
was a
that
huge
with
reveal for me. Yeah, I haven't been
yeah,
reading this. I opened this to an amazing fight with Supergirl, Ultra Humanite, and Monkey Prince. And man, the banter is fantastic. This is my first Monkey Prince book. And I was telling Paul, I was really mad when I read this because I wish I was on this title a lot sooner. This book is fun from start to finish.
it really is. The Monkey Prince itself, and you have the little his little sidekick there, Pigsby, I think his name is. I'm sure I got his name wrong.
Pigsy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but basically, we start in on this battle with Supergirl and the Ultra Humanite. The Ultra Humanite basically thinks that the Monkey Prince, or rather vice versa, Supergirl thinks that the Monkey Prince is with Ultra Humanite. I believe. Did I get that
Yeah, so we
wrong?
get the first meeting of those two characters, and she
Right.
automatically assumes because of the colors that are on their outfits with the red and the blue, and they're both monkeys or
Right.
apes, she assumes these two are clearly in cahoots.
Right.
That was
Right.
pretty funny. His
It
reaction was
was.
great.
Yeah, and when it doesn't take long by page 2, it's been all worked out. But then he tries to put himself back together, and he puts himself back together all backwards and everything. And
Yeah,
um,
he takes a shot for Supergirl. That
right,
was really like how as soon as they figure out they're not fighting, Ultra Humanite fires his death ray at Supergirl, and he puts himself in harm's way because he's already impressed with her eyes, basically. And he gets blown in half, literally blown in half. And he says it's embarrassing to get caught with your pants down. This is like embarrassing on a whole nother level. And grabs his legs and just puts them back on. Like you said, they were backwards.
right.
This book is hilarious. Like all these jokes land very well too.
Really is. Keep going. Take us through it.
Yeah. So upon this pretty much being a great distraction, just everyone just kind of like in shock and awe of this crazy Monkey Prince antics. It gave Supergirl kind of the out she needed, but in the midst of this, the lightning strikes, the green lightning, and the rain starts to fall. This is where we're seeing the side effects of the volcano sending this superstorm around the world. They're starting to get rained on. Monkey Prince is acknowledging this feels weird. It's making me itch. Supergirl saying what kind of rain is this? And in the midst of this, Ultra Humanite's weapon that she destroyed a few panels earlier is putting itself back together. So we're seeing the transformative properties of this Lazarus resin falling on these characters. It's affecting everyone that it's touching so far in different ways. And in the midst of him putting it back together, Supergirl doesn't wait. She just swings down, busts him in the face, knocks him out, and fights over. Starts talking with Monkey Prince more about what in the heck is going on. hearing cries from all over the world and says, "I've got to go. Metropolis needs me." So they part ways. Monkey Prince wraps up the Ultrahumanite and he heads back home as well. That's where we get more big reveals, I guess, that are more relevant to the Monkey Prince title beyond than the Lazarus Planet stuff. So you want to touch
Right.
on that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are all throughout there have been hints that there are more things that can go. There are more powers, more aspects of Monkey Prince that we just don't know yet that are going to come along. And so he's still scratching his head and everything. We go back to his grandfather's lab for a second, and he wakes up. Having had now, he has left the Ultra Humanite, but he still feels the punch that Supergirl gave him, and the Monkey Prince is still scratching his head, so he says there may be lice. He tells him to go to the decontamination chamber, um, and that's where after a brief interlude again with Supergirl, we find that there are tiny little Monkey Prince clones that are jumping out of Monkey Prince.
Coming out of his hair.
Right,
And his
right,
reaction is just acceptance, which blew my mind. Like he's like, "Yeah, Pigsy said weird stuff could happen."
right,
Yeah, and an important interlude as well to add when we cut
right.
to Supergirl showing up at Metropolis, she showed up to the entire city being transformed in tons of different ways. You have
Mhm.
people's hair turning into snakes. You have all kinds of stuff, but she kind of focuses on that character. I mean, you get a wide shot of the city. You have people flying around. You have dinosaur-looking people. Just anything you can think of, but she's dealing with this guy who's like turning into a reptile, and she goes to punch him and she immediately finds out that her powers have gone flat. So we see real quick that her powers are going up and down while she's trying to put on this fight. And eventually, how far did that go? Because we got the little clones popping out. We
Mhm.
got Monkey Prince. Is that his girlfriend who calls him?
Yes. Yep.
So his girlfriend calls him just to check on him because of what she's seeing on the news, where the world's going crazy from this storm, and he sees on the news Supergirl's in trouble, so he immediately goes there to help her with this fight.
Right. And so he goes to help her with the fight. He says that he will take care of the Medusa head guy, and basically what he does is he sticks all of these little mini me's, these little mini monkey princes on him, and basically he says, "You might have heard of me. I'm the mother flipping monkey prince."
Yeah,
And he
they thwaps him out. And was I wrong in thinking that he pulled his staff out of his ear?
that's what I got too. Yep,
He reaches in
exactly.
his ear to
Yep.
what could almost look like an earring sitting there, like a bar
Hmm.
earring, but he grabs it and he pulls it out in like one swing motion. And that's like this dude's magic is just so fun because it's a
Hmm.
magic based character,
Right.
from what I understand, and everything that he does is completely accepted on face value because of that. Now
Right.
that can go either way normally, but because of how well he's being written and how they just lean all the way into it, and people respond to him like you would expect them to. They're not all accepting of this.
Right.
Like what just happened? And it is dude, this character is so fun. I hate that I was slow to jump on this. I'm definitely going back and catching up.
Right. And so then Monkey Prince and Supergirl get back together. As you said, Supergirl's powers are still kind of going all kinds of wonky. So she needs to catch a ride with him to go back to where she needs to go. We flash back to Monkey Prince's grandfather, who, because of what's been happening with everything, has now been able to form a phantom crystal lens and made it whole again. And what
Yeah, he
he's going to
took
do with that.
took some of the rain and put it on his destroyed technology and let it rebuild it.
Right. And so his plan is to open up the Phantom Zone, take out the Monkey Prince, the ancient monkey god, and then transfer his essence into the Ultra Humanite.
Or transfer the Ultra Humanite into him.
Right. Right.
Right.
Exactly.
He's finding
Um,
he's always on the quest to find a more superior physical form to take over.
right. Flash to the Hall of Justice, which
Wow.
is looking great after Dark Crisis. By the way, I must say.
Yeah, it's really
Um,
cleaned up nice.
It did. Where Supergirl now and the Monkey Prince are there, and he still has these little monkey princes that are jumping off of him all the once in a while, and he catches one like a fly, and he kind of like slapped it in like a
Anytime
fly.
he scratches, you get another one. It's
Right.
hilarious.
And then we see the group that we see at the beginning of the Lazarus Planet Alpha are there, and so that's really where Lazarus Planet Alpha basically starts right here at the
Yeah.
end of this issue. So,
Yeah, this was great. It
um,
was literally a prequel to that Alpha issue. We get to see Supergirl and them show up to the Hall of Justice and give context to that emergency signal she sent out to any available uh, heroes that can hear from us. But they told it in a great fashion and gave us some action in there, tons of comedy.
mhm. Yeah.
Great read.
It really is. They've done a great job with it all. The entire series has just been phenomenal. Um, we have one more issue to go that's going to cross over with Lazarus Planet number 11, and then we have only two more issues to go in the Monkey Prince miniseries. We'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, they really have done just a phenomenal job of keeping it interesting. It's sometimes stories of this kind where you deal a lot with like where you can where you deal with like the mythos and the mystery and the magic of a certain culture or whatever. Sometimes it can be hit or miss sometimes, but they're just knocking it out of the park, I think, with the Monkey Prince.
Yeah, I should have used a little bit of better judgment with this series because I was reading Batman Superman that
Hmm.
last run that was just phenomenal.
Hmm.
Phenomenal. This is the writer who took us out for the last handful of issues, beyond a handful of issues, at least 6 to 8 issues, and told that Ataro IU story or whatever. So I
Hmm.
should have known that this was about to be a well crafted, enjoyable read and jumped on it. But yeah, highly recommend this. That was a fantastic read.
Yeah, it should definitely at least put a smile on your face as you're reading it. So
Yeah.
because it's just fun. So but then we go into Lazarus Planet, Assault on Krypton. And exactly, you're repping the Superman blue shirt.
Yeah. And we
So
get a little bit more pre-alpha context with this too. So, like Paul mentioned, these will be series of one shots. This is not a continuation series. Alpha is it says to be concluded in Omega. So you have like 2 issues to tell that primary base story, but everything coming in between is adding context, little details, seeing what's happening in other parts of the world. And we start this one off right where Monkey Prince ends at the Hall of Justice, moments after Damien and them showed up in that crashing opening sequence to Alpha. But they add so much more to the timeline inside the Hall of Justice.
right. There is a page that kind of explains exactly where the title of the issue comes from, Assault on Krypton. It deals with something that goes back to Krypton, where there was a flood. Basically there were clouds in the skies. There was a flood of planetary scope, and basically a volcanic eruption, much like we have here on the Lazarus Planet, and it came to be known on Krypton as the assault on Krypton, and so that's where we get the title of this particular issue.
Yeah, which I felt
So we
wasn't what after reading it, I don't feel like that was necessary
exactly, it really wasn't,
at all.
um, right. Um, yeah, it did kind of feel kind of like you're putting a square peg into a round hole, like you were kind of forcing something in there just to get the title of the issue.
We wanted a nuanced title. Like we don't need nuance to it. Assault on Krypton. I get it. We're dealing with characters associated with Superman. Enough said.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, so we start off with Dreamer. Dreamer is in the first story. Um, she basically plops down right into the beginning of well, actually probably at the end of where Alpha. Well, it's kind of in the middle, I guess, of where Alpha Planet or Lazarus Planet Alpha is, I guess,
Yeah,
because
Alpha
at the
starts
end
off with
of
them wrecking into the Hall of Justice and
right,
immediately already organized and leaving. So you're getting an expanded timeline of the Alpha intro. They're showing you what happened in between the panels, kind of thing.
right, and it has to do with it starts off with Dreamer basically can enter people's dreams. She can work through them. It starts off with her having an image of the helmet of Doctor Fate, the helmet of Naboo. Um, and so she ends up basically in with Damien and Supergirl and Batman. They're basically all together. Batman is recovering. They're talking about what's going on and what's happening in the main story and everything. And they basically realize that they have to get this helmet of Naboo. Um, and so Batman, in his weakened state, says the name Khalid, who is the person who basically is the current Doctor Fate. Um, and so what Dreamer does is Dreamer goes into Khalid's dreams, where he is a doctor.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. She
Um,
just enters
yeah,
like her own version of like a Speed Force, a dream verse kind of thing, and finds him that way. Thought that was a
right,
great panel work. Is watching her like focus and go in like that was super dope.
right. And so she goes in, tries to convince Khalid, that she needs to find the helmet of Naboo. He basically, in his dream, does not know who she is. He has no clue. Um, so
Or even who he
she,
is, did he?
yeah,
He didn't
exactly.
even
Go ahead.
he
Yeah,
didn't even know he was Dr. Fate in his dream. She couldn't get him like convinced enough to help.
right. Um, as she's trying to plead with him to get him to realize who he is, the helmet of Naboo then contacts her,
It
and
is no use.
says,
Let him go.
"Yeah, exactly." And so, the two of them converse. She ends up going through other parts of the dream and everything. She ends up finding the helmet of Naboo, and in the very last panel, we see her. Looks like she's exiting a Lazarus pit with the helmet of Naboo. So I gotta say,
Screaming.
this helmet of Naboo has some serious mileage in the DCU right now.
Yeah. And not just that, it is. I think it's crucial to point out that while she's talking to the helmet, it's guiding her and everything. And then she kind of like picks up her own momentum on the shirt. She feels like she's getting close, and she kind of is like, I found it, and grabs it and dips. And while she's in the process of dipping out of the dreams, the helmet's screaming, Naya, no, wait. And that's when she emerges, like you said, from the Lazarus pit. So I'm wondering if it wasn't wanting her to hit the pit, or if it wasn't wanting to travel through the Lazarus pit, or if that's what it was referring to at all. But that's how it ends on that cliffhanger with her coming up out of the pit screaming no,
Right,
like it was a big
right.
problem.
And obviously, there will be much more to come with this because there's the caption says only the beginning.
Do you think
So
she's awake at all?
I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think, you know, yeah, exactly. It's an it definitely is a place to end if you want to make sure you follow the story to wherever it goes next.
Yeah, so
Because
like
it's definitely not
just for like time stamping some stuff here, like where was the helmet the last time we saw it? In the volcano, right?
correct.
But
Yes.
in Alpha, they're like they don't really reference it in Alpha. They weren't after the helmet of Naboo in Alpha. They were after just opening up the Tower of Fate. I assumed the helmet had to have been in there.
Right. Well, the Tower of Fate had all of the objects that the
Mm-hmm.
magic was drawn out of. So that was what was in the Tower of Fate. Um, like you, I was pretty sure that the helmet of Naboo was actually supposedly in the Lazarus volcano.
Yeah, which that's where she's popping out of the volcano that is in dire straits right now. That's
Right.
probably not the place to be if she is actually awake. She just woke up at like ground zero of this event. You know, this
Mhm.
Lazarus resin is really showing some major side effects for some of these characters. It's not something you want on you. So I wonder
Right.
what's about to happen with her because she came out, like I said, screaming, eyes lit up. So this is going to be interesting. I'm wondering if she's going to throw the helmet on or.
I don't know because the helmet still has all the magic that it drew out from everything.
Yeah.
So because like we said, it took the objects it used uh, the the uh, the girl there. I can't think of her name now.
We'll call her
Alex.
Siphon for short.
Yeah, exactly. Right. She siphoned off all of the magic out of the artifacts, put them in the helmet of Naboo. The artifacts went to the Tower of Fate. The helmet of Naboo went to the Lazarus volcano, and that's when when it erupted, it basically took all of the magic that was in the helmet of Naboo and spread it all over the world.
Yeah. So,
Um,
like, we saw those characters freed in Alpha.
right.
Are they all powerless?
Well, you would think that there's at least no power in any of their objects. So when they picked up the sword and when they picked up, you
The
know,
flute?
the flute, there should be no magic in them, I would think, because
Phantom
it was
Stranger lit
it
up
had all
like
been
a
siphoned off.
yeah. Phantom Stranger lit up like a light bulb though, eyes going. So I don't know, dude. We need answers. We need answers.
Right. America wants to know.
Yeah. Well, that was the end
Uh,
of the first story, and that came to like a pretty startling conclusion. And the next story is the one that I was most excited for. This one, I don't know where
yeah,
everyone else lands. We get four stories in here. The next one is our boy John Kent.
go for it.
So it starts off with vandalizing. So the city is running rampant, going wild, but instead of focusing on that in the bigger picture sense, you kind of focus on what some of the other people do in moments like that. And this guy went shopping without money. You see him busting out windows of stores, taking jackets and stuff. John flies down and confronts him. Put it back. What are you doing? There's all kinds of stuff going on. You got to put it back. And the rain hits him and everything. And the kid's like, "You okay?" John's showing signs like it's hurting him. And he reaches out to John and he lights up with a blue electricity right as the kid touches him. And you see like some of that electricity transfer into the other kid, I'm guessing. And as soon as it does, he just puts his hands out like he got hit with energy and he just has lava and magma flowing around him like he's controlling it. And immediately realizes this kid just got powers. This petty thief got powers, and John passes out. But he wakes up back at this kid's apartment where the kid obviously got him home. You know, this though he's out there robbing, he's not like he's cold blooded. He's not cold hearted,
Right.
I guess. You know what I mean? And
Okay,
so
there you go.
he made sure that John Superman was okay, and he kind of hung out there with him. And they're doing a little bit of talking. You know, John's like, "Dude, you got to put the jacket back," because he still has it. He's like, "I don't want to put the jacket back." And it's a fun back and forth. And they come to the conclusion that when this is over, I'm going to take you to jail. And he's like, "Cool, that's fine, but I got these powers. Let's go do some stuff." Pretty much.
Right, and so they basically go out and they I think they basically take his cape off for one thing because his cape was still sparking.
Yeah, blue
Right,
electricity.
right. So they go and they find where am I?
A lot of people they just like
You
start
keep going.
saving the. Well, we keep on. So they just fly around for a little while. We're hitting panel to panel. You're seeing all the little
Mhm.
things that a Superman would do in a situation like this. You know, tying up the petty thieves, picking up debris, stopping other robbers, and pulling trucks off bridges, helping little old ladies, this, that, and the third. And John's powers flop out on him. Kid
Right.
catches him. You kind of get this moment like thinking that maybe this kid's going to turn a new leaf and everything. And they get to the end of their day, and John's like, "All right, man. Well, I'm going to take you to jail now." He's like, "Don't bother. My powers are all gone. I'll put the jacket back." Well, no, he does take him to jail. He's like, yeah, he takes him to jail after he tells him that his powers are all gone. They must have been temporary. John goes home just to see that not only did he not stay in jail, his powers were not temporary. He blew himself out of jail with the lava powers and everything. And John goes and looks where he left his cape, and all you saw was a note. "You ever have a really bad day?" Signed Ash. And that's how this one ends, with John getting his cape stolen, getting had by a petty criminal, and just having a rough day. And now his powers are unstable. It does say "to be continued in the adventures of Superman." So I'm sitting here waiting for this dude just to go full electric blue. They teased
Exactly.
it on the cover.
hmm But we don't see him. We don't see
Mm.
it.
Now, as much as
Although we
I can't wait for it to get here, I'm enjoying it. Still getting to be excited about it happening. You know, it's still
mhm,
not here, so all these little
right.
teases are fun.
But instead we get Jonathan Kent, One Bad Day. So
Jonathan Kent, one bad day. Yes, yes.
um, which is better than most of the ones that they put out so far. So
Ironically, the one bad day ad is right next to that page too. You ever have one
right,
bad day?
right. So that takes us to the third one, and it is Mercy Graves, who is the recipient of the third story. For those of you who don't know who she is Lex Luthor's basically henchman. She was created actually solely on the Adventures of Superman, the Paul Dini, Bruce Timm
Animated series.
animated series. Um, so between her and Harley Quinn, those are the two that kind of graduated from those series and have stuck around in the DCU. So um, we basically find um, how Lex is basically reacting to all of the rain that's happening throughout Metropolis. Um,
like an
He
idiot.
basically, what's he's an idiot. Go ahead, you tell everybody why he's an idiot.
We're standing looking out the skyscraper at this mega storm coming through, and Mercy keeps expressing concerns. We need to evacuate the building. We're going to lose power. And Lex keeps correcting her. Oh, we'll be fine. The backup generators got it. Those fail. She's like, sir, we need to get away from the windows. This is rough wind. These are the most expensive windows in the world. They'll never break. And as he says it, they break in his face. There's just countless times where Mercy keeps telling him things and he keeps trying to correct her and he keeps being proven wrong. And it makes Lex look like an idiot. This is one of the smartest minds on the planet, and he gets chumped off big time in a bunch of panels in this, a bunch of moments. They're just really using him as a springboard to do something that I'm not sure what. But you don't need Lex to be stupid for Mercy to be smart, because
Right.
she wouldn't be there next to him if she wasn't smart. But I thought that was a little goofy.
Right, and so the rain ends up impacting Mercy Graves. They end up against some look like modified dogs, wolves, whatever you want to call them, kind of a thing.
Yeah, you
Um,
got lightning and stuff hitting the building, striking through the open windows that Lex swore wouldn't break. And you have all this research and all this research teams in this building, and all kinds of stuff in the building is going haywire. Mercy got hit with a bolt of lightning and blew her back into Lex's armored suits, and that ends up giving us the catalyst for what we see happening to her. All the scientists downstairs start screaming for help, calling up for help. We see that some of the lab experiments have mutated. The animals that I'm assuming, were testing on have now broken out and look like massive dire wolves with sharp points on their tails, just slaughtering people. Mercy grabs some stuff out of the armory, tell Lex hunker down, I'll be back, and she goes down there and starts doing the Lord's work until she gets stabbed through the back.
right. So she gets stabbed by one of these mutant wolves, or whatever you want to call it. But as soon as that happens, she sees the electricity starts coming out of her eyes, um, and she basically starts repairing herself and almost becoming. I want to say probably the closest analogy I could find would probably be like a Blue Beetle type of a thing,
Yeah.
where she basically is able to change her hands into different weapons and into different protective things for her. So she, one of them, she has her five fingers basically end up, going out from her hands and basically stabbing the genetic, yeah, there it is, the genetic animals. Um, and so, that again, the nearest I can say is that it probably is like a Blue Beetle type of situation. Um, but it is connected to Lex's armor, like you said, because that was somehow um, the 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 Lazarus rain and lightning kind of took them both and kind of almost made her an armor like type of a person. Um, so we get that at the end, and uh, and then she basically says that no, that she has more work to do. That Lex has some things for her, but she basically says that she has more work to do, and so we probably will see her a little bit down the road as well. So
Yeah, I think that's pretty good timing with this too. If they let this carry over, because I'm expecting some of these changes, the Lazarus effect, if you will, to be null and void by the end of this. But I expect some of them to carry on. We do know that that's where this upcoming Doom Patrol series that's coming is. That's coming out of necessity of the Lazarus effect with people. All these people with these newfound twisted abilities are going to need somewhere to go, and that's where they'll end up. So I'm hoping, like with knowing what's going on in Superman stuff, with the amped up Metallo, with Lex's new plan, it would be great to have Mercy with an upgrade to be a bigger threat as well. So hopefully we see this carry over and get more with this, because it was pretty cool. She was happy with it. She was accepting of it. She wasn't like, oh, this sucks. Now I'm super useful and powerful. She's like, let's get to work in proper
right.
Mercy fashion. I thought it was good.
hmm and then we get to the final story with Power Girl, which was like 10 pages that I think basically, um, a lot of it was just her internal dialogue talking to herself.
Written by
Um,
Timothy Leary. It was just an acid trip for 10
right.
pages.
Exactly. Well, the first 8 pages you have her. You finally have her getting hit by the Lazarus uh, the Lazarus volcano rain, whatever. And basically, what it does for her is it basically we find that by the end of the last 2 pages um, that it basically has given her telekinesis powers. She's able to talk to people and hear things without having to actually speak to people. And so that's kind of where we end up. Um,
Yeah, she's just falling through this weird dream sequence, fighting her way out of it to find out what's real. And when she comes out of it, she's standing next to a character called, excuse me, Omen,
yep.
who has those abilities. And just conveniently, you have somebody there with you who has these new abilities you have that can like guide you through what's happening to you. And they just fly off together.
Right. So not earth shattering, but it promises that it's going to be continued. It's going to be they're going to take this and move it forward in the Action Comics. As 1051 starts, she'll be one of those maybe probably like a revolving type of an anthology type of a thing where they'll pick up on this story as well in the new Action Comics.
Yeah.
Um,
Excited
so
to
that
see
was
where they
it.
go with her.
Yeah. I like this issue. We were talking backstage before. I kind of thought it was going to be more of a 40-page narrative with all the characters coming together instead of 10-page stories. Um, but it looks like that's the way it's going to be with all of these one shots. We're going to kind of single in on a particular character. We'll see how has the Lazarus reign, affected them. Has it given them new powers? Has it taken away powers because it's done that for people too, like Supergirl. And what does it mean for the average person who didn't have any powers, like Mercy Graves? Um, so that's looks like what's going to happen with all the one shots in between before we get back to the main story in Lazarus Planet Omega. So, what are your final thoughts?
Could have been a stronger issue. Like I think I have the same. I just want it to tie back more, but I guess this is just the start of it. I expect to have one or two more like this, where we're kind of seeing the same timeline right here, but just in different places. But after that, I'd like to see more context being added to the primary fight happening.
Right.
Like once we seen enough characters, I wanted to bring them back in, and I'm assuming that'll happen. There's enough of these one shots that all of them can't just be just look what's happening to this person over here. Look what's happening over there. Like now that we see him, like bring him into the big fight. I want to see people on their way fighting to get to the big battle.
Right. So our next issue is Lazarus Planet. We once were gods. We will focus on Shazam, the Amazons, Martian Manhunter, and the Trench, who we haven't seen in a long time since probably the New 52. I think probably we haven't seen the Trench. So
Was
we'll
that
we'll
Jeff
catch up with
Johns
them.
run?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We saw
I'm
them in the
excited for that
movie.
Martian Manhunter story.
Yeah.
That's gonna be wicked.
Yep. So that's going to do it. We had 2 issues to look at this particular week. Again, these are coming out basically every single week for about 2 months, and then there'll be a wrap up 4-issue miniseries at the end that will cross over with Wonder Woman. So, but basically, this is just a two month type of a deal. So. That's going to do it for us. As always, don't forget to make sure you subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment. Don't forget to hit the like button. Make sure you follow Mr. Mark over on his Legion of Comics. Um, and as of right now, I am Paul Cook, and you are leaving Sector 2815. But
We are Legion.
exactly.